Welcome to the Love Holistic Living podcast, your roadmap to heal and align mind, body, and soul and become intuitive through food, pleasure, and spirituality with your host and Italian friend, Sara Garofalo. Hello and welcome back to another episode with your Italian friend and spiritual healer, Sara Garofalo. Today I have a special guest. Her name is Kaki, and she is the creator and founder of Cashflow Quinn and founder of Kaki Publishing House. And she is a multi-passionate entrepreneur. I want you to introduce yourself, Kaki. You are also one of my great friend. We're going to share our story of how we met, but what else do you do? Because you're so multi-passionate and you have a multifaceted version of yourself. So welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I don't really know what else to add. I tend to shift quite a bit, but what I've discovered is that my purpose here is to help people achieve freedom, whether that's financial or just freedom from all the stories that we tell ourselves. So at the beginning, when I was thinking, okay, I'm going to teach share trading. And then I went to start my own publishing house and I'm going, how does this even fit in? And I had a podcast before, as you know, Zara, you've been on a couple of times.
Yeah.
And it just didn't make sense how it all worked together. But in the end, as I was writing my latest bio, it was like, okay, it's all about freedom. So I think for me, that is who I am. It's helping people dig out the freedom within.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. And you're also helping people unlock abundance, share trading, money mindset, energy, self-love, and all things motherhood. Because you're also a mother. So I love that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I feel like so many women out there that are listening, if you identify yourself as a mother, you may not think that you can be a badass mother, right? That was my thought at the beginning. I was a stay-at-home mom, but it wasn't aligned with my nature. So I love talking to badass mothers, who are doing something awesome.
Yeah. I think the story that we get sold, especially as women, is once you become a mother, that's all you are. So you're a mother. And so when I went back to work, I went back part-time because, I'm a mother, I should stay at home. And it's not saying that that's a bad thing, but what I hear, I think a lot of times is, I have kids, so I can't do that.
Right.
That's the story. And I think, just looking at you, looking at me, even that's not true. We are mothers. Yes, we are definitely mothers. We love our kids. We look after our kids, but we also want to have our own identity, our own career, or something that is ours. And we went out to do it, even though we have two young kids.
Right.
Your kids are quite young as well. So it is definitely possible. It's whether you're willing to do it. And I think that's the difference.
Yes. It's getting out of your story or the story you tell your mind and just go after what you want, right? Even though you're a mother. So I love it. So tell us how you started with what you're doing, with the Cashflow Queen, with the publishing house, but what's the story of how you got passionate about this?
Yeah. I'll backtrack to what I was doing before all of this. And people usually are like, what? How did you go from this to what I do now? I had a massive career change. So I used to be a pharmacist. I used to run the pharmacy at the hospital here in Perth, Australia, the children's hospital. So I was the chief pharmacist. And then I had children and things just started to shift. I had no idea what was going on. So after my first, she's now 9, I started, I had postnatal depression, and it took probably about a year and a half, 2 years before I really, what's the word? Admitted or accepted that I had postnatal depression. It was more like, oh yeah, I'm fine. But then when I started really crying every day and my husband's like, I don't know how to help you. It got to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to go and seek help. Fast forward to then my second child, I had done a little bit of, personal development work and started asking the existential questions like, why am I here? Am I really supposed to be in pharmacy? And with my second child, it was like this sudden exponential change that happened without really me even asking for it, I guess.
Yeah.
I remember the last day of work at the hospital. I just had this thought, I'm not going to go back to work. And I'm going, how am I even going to do that? That doesn't even make sense. And a year prior to, probably about a year, I had bought a share trading program. And I went, okay, first day of maternity leave, I'm just going to go and do my share trading program. So that's what I did. I started doing this share trading program I bought about a year ago on my first day of maternity leave. Type A overachiever here, yes. But that's just me. And remembering that I was in hospital, I had just had my second child, and I'm calling my coach, and he's like, where are you? Because obviously it sounds a bit different to my home. And I'm like, oh, I just had a baby. And he's like, why are you calling me? Why are you calling me? I'm like, oh, baby's sleeping. I've got nothing to do. So, I'm just so into the share trading. And then within 6 months of me actually starting share trading, I had replaced my full-time pharmacy income as a manager. And I went, oh, okay.
Wow.
I don't need to go back to work. That's awesome. And so at this time as well, and during this time, I then started getting like a call to become a life coach. Then went to quantum healing. Then as I was starting my business, I had a, big loud voice tell me to start a podcast. So now I started a podcast. During this time, I met Sara, and we both, were starting our businesses at that time. So, such a big support, especially during that time when we were all starting, because obviously we were all like, what's
Right.
happening? And we were in a program that was very masculine as well.
Yeah.
So, and we're both, very feminine in the way we do things. So it was just a fun time. It was a fun time. We all had fun.
Fun memories. Yeah, for sure. The
Yeah.
program brought us together. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, fast forward to now, I'm teaching the share trading. I bring in the mindset and energy work. And also the publishing house, again, it was like the universe was just giving me things
Right.
to lead me out of healthcare. So I got handed an opportunity to be an author in a multi-author book. No idea what that was. And from that, and I just followed the path, and then I went, oh, I need to start my own publishing house. So for me, my life in the last 5 years has
Right.
just been following whatever has been handed to me, sometimes with resistance, but it always ends up that I go back to that path. So I might take the scenic route and get a few whacks along the way, but I get shown back to go back to that path that I'm meant to be following, whatever that is.
But I love that. And I think that's so powerful for the people listening to, like you're to be open, to stay
Mm.
open, to what's the next step, whatever is handed over to me. Like first it was the podcast, and then the publishing house, then the share trading, then like whatever it is, but it's kind of like the process. And so many people have that backwards. They just want to get to point B, but you forget the journey. And that's the most important thing, right? As you
Mm.
started mentioning it, and then eventually you can't escape your purpose or whatever it is in that moment also. But because I've evolved too. We are all evolving.
Yeah.
But then you went back to, hey, it feels really aligned. And maybe you had to, I call it the unlocking and activating your energy to go back to that place and teaching in a different way.
Yeah,
Right.
definitely.
Yeah. So I'm just so curious about like, and I think the audience about money abundance and share trading. Like, I want to learn more about it. It's been a quite of a journey myself to get to that, to attune to the the vibration, and I use quantum healing too. But how can help the audience to get to that frequency? If you could say one thing, I know it's not one thing, but you know, if you could
If I can
summarize
say
it.
one thing, there's a lot of things, but I think the first thing is actually getting clear on your current relationship with money and abundance. Because if you don't know what your starting point is, how are you going to, go to the next point that you want to go
Yeah,
to? So it's always starting from where you are and then shifting to
right.
the next level, then the next level, then the next level.
So self-awareness. Because
Self-awareness, always the key to change.
yeah, so what you're saying is because I think that's where I was. I wasn't aware that I had a poor relationship with money. So I kind of like tried to walk the talk, but it wasn't working because I didn't even know where I was started. But then I had to reverse engineering because I knew the body, right? It's like I knew how I started with my body and the self-awareness. So what you're saying is understand the starting point. Like where are you at?
Mhm.
And don't use, I call it toxic positivity of like, I'm abundant, but I'm like, you don't believe that, right? So let's just start where you are.
Yes, the toxic positivity that I was there for
Hmm.
a long time before I realized. I'm like, oh, yeah, see, my brain's not going, I believe that, I'm just saying it. But what I'm very logical, like I was very logical minded. So, now I kind of operate
Hmm.
with both. For me, when I speak to my clients, I want them to actually have a picture, like write out where you are financially,
Mm,
because it's so important to see. And because a lot of people go, oh, yeah, I'm fine, because they might be making a lot of money, but they're also spending it and they
yeah.
don't realize that it's just leaking out. So until you actually see it and go, oh, I'm on six figures, but where is the
Where is
money?
it?
Yeah, where is it? Well, it's because, you're spending, you're buying handbags every, 2 weeks or something. I mean, I'm
Right.
just making this
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
So it's important to see visually where your money is at.
Hmm.
And then you can start going, all right. And then talking to your money. That's one thing that I love to get my clients to do is actually take out your wallet. If you have cash, speak to your cash. If you don't, because most of us are, cashless at the
Yeah.
moment, take out your debit card or your credit card, have a chat with it and ask, just see what your relationship with money is. And so that's your baseline. So you have your 3D visual
Hmm.
as to, okay, where am I at financially? And then you have your energetic relationship with money. Where are you currently energetically with your money? And that provides a baseline to then go, okay, what do I need to do next to build a better relationship with my money? So you have to do both the 3D and also the energy to really really give it that boost, that synchronicity, that
Hmm.
synergistic um,
Right.
boost. Yeah.
So what you're saying though, you were saying three things, which I love. We're gonna get into the energetics, but one, self-awareness. Two, when you put it down on paper, understand your patterns. Maybe your pattern is to have the money but spend it, so that it's leaking, right? Or you could have other patterns, and I would love to explore the patterns that people have. And then three, talk to money because that will lead to the energetics. So before we get into the energetics, though, what are some of the most common patterns you see with
Mm.
money, or your pattern, or I don't know, your client's pattern with money?
Yeah. Most people have the pattern of they worry about money.
Hmm.
So worrying that we never have enough because, you know, who has enough money? But the thing is, it's really recognizing that it's not saying that, if you want to have more, that, oh, I'm happy with what I have.
Right.
Is stop worrying about it and just getting into the belief that you're always supported. And
Mm.
looking at myself, especially in the last, because up until, this is going to sound scary and probably put people off entrepreneurship, but up until I started becoming entrepreneur, I never had any issues with money. Zero. Like money just comes and it's just there. Then I started becoming entrepreneur. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
am fortunate that I have a partner who has, a stable income. But for me, as someone who has always been able to earn her own money, it was like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah.
Because when you become an entrepreneur, especially when you start out, well, you have no clients because you don't have an
Mm-hmm.
audience, you haven't
Right.
built your business yet. And so it's like, okay, so I started finding all these money blogs and I started worrying about money. And the funny thing is
Yeah.
when you start worrying about money, money doesn't come to you because you're blocking the money coming to you. So it's one of those things where, you save for a rainy day. Yes, have that, but can you not say save it for a rainy day because you're also expecting bad things to happen to you? Your language is also very important in terms of, your
Yeah.
the energy and attracting money to you. So worrying is a big thing.
Yeah.
There's also people that have a lot of fear around money. So people that would be very good at saving, but then they're scared of money, so then they spend it all. So they might be really good at saving, but then they spend it, which, like the example I gave where, maybe someone is making 6 figures, 7 figures, but they have nothing to show for it because they're actually scared of actually having that money. And that comes from maybe a fear of what other people would think. It could be
Mm-hmm.
a belief that they picked up from, the upbringing from
Right.
people around them, ancestral things. So it can be a whole host of things. But then, I mean, the next step after getting the foundation is going, okay, what are my money beliefs?
I love that. I mean, honestly, I had all of it, when I started to really get down to the core. Because, like, I realized, especially the entrepreneur, right? It's like a whole of a ride. It's a ride of like ups and downs being an entrepreneur. On top of, I actually never worked on money. Money actually for me was the last thing. I worked on my body. I worked on love. And then I realized, like, oh my God, there is this money. There is the third level for me. I never paid attention to it. And I definitely was worrying. So I kept getting, and for a single mother, at the time, there are so many beliefs. And then I realized I started digging, and all of my family history came up. Because obviously my dad is like, we're Italian, but like we don't make the US, money that it's over here that most people make. And we're happy in our bubble, but at the same time we're constantly worried, or at least my dad. So a lot of things came up with like my family, right? And how I was raised, or we can't afford that, or we can't have that, right? And I was like, okay, I understand where I come from. I understand these are the limiting beliefs of maybe my parents, but I don't want to live there. I want to be stuck here. I want to
Mm,
move past that. And so I realized that the more I was worrying, the more like I was repelling abundance. And then
yeah.
I also noticed that was my second pattern, that I went through different bursts of like saving, because I'm really good at saving, and I would just invest it. And almost all of it. And like I kind of like I was like, I'm addicted to the highs and lows. And I realized the patterns because I had that in love. And then once
Mm,
I stabilized that in my nervous system, it kind of stabilized my income. It's so interesting. I was like,
yeah.
I want and need consistency. I'm gonna get to here, you know?
Yeah.
It's so
And
interesting.
it is so interesting. And, when you actually look at everything, your relationship with money is actually your relationship with yourself. So everything
Absolutely.
you mentioned, it is your relationship with yourself. You like the highs and lows, and then when you became neutral and or
Yeah.
stabilize, your relationship with money changed. And it's the same. It is everything about you. How you treat yourself is how you treat your money. So if you're someone that worries about bad things happening, you attract the bad things. You have the negative people that always have negative
Right,
things
right.
happen because that's all they're thinking about. That's what they're putting out there. So of course, if you're putting out, things not happening, then of course you're going to attract that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so for the audience listening, stop worrying about money because it does repel abundance, right? You push it away because money doesn't want to come to you if you constantly worry. And then understand your patterns. And then what about energetics? Can you expand on that?
I'll tell you a story about my money energetics or ancestral, because that's all energetics. So my mum's side of the family, back pre-World War II, they were one of the richest families in Hong Kong. That's where I came
Mm,
from. And in World War II, my grandpa didn't really know how to handle money. And at that time, they have something called military money. So he exchanged all his real money to military money. And after the war, they became worthless. So my auntie was saying that they had bags and bags of money that was
mm,
worth nothing and they were burning it for fuel.
wow.
So when I look at myself, I look at my mum's side of the family, my aunties, my uncles, my mom,
Mm-hmm.
my siblings, my cousins, you can see the pattern, the money pattern. There is the fear of never having enough. Like money is like the thing. My mom used to, I mean, I love my mom, but she used to get angry at me. I remember I was in England working away and I used to always give her money every month. I'll give her,
Mm-hmm.
a part of my money from my work. But I was in England and I missed 1 month. Oh my gosh. Like the anger, she was just very angry with me. Like, how can you do this? Da, da, da. So that's the energetics around money in my family. And I didn't realize that because for me, I grew up, my mom and dad really provided everything. I didn't have a worry. Like I said, up until I
Mm,
became an entrepreneur, I had no
yeah.
worries about money. And then for me, what I realized is that I also had that pattern, of worrying, even though it was subconscious, worrying about money, being scared of money.
Mm,
Even though I was investing and doing all the things, it was because I never thought that I'll have enough because I'm worrying about it. What if it all goes like my grandparents?
mm-hmm.
So it was working on that, and that's the energetics around it. So I done a lot of work around releasing the ancestral,
Right.
trauma around money. And I can tell you it's made a huge difference to me and my relationship with money and understanding my relationship with money.
Wow. It's so profound. Like that's exactly the ancestral root for anybody listening, it plays a vital role in like who we are, as we all know, spiritual beings. And for obviously, I'm like you, like invest in your healing, right? You have to work on this patterns or ancestral patterns. But for anybody who is like, well, help me understand if anybody's listening is like, how can you pick yourself back up though? Like, that's your pattern. You know that you have a lack mindset. What is the easiest tool how to get to that vibration, right? What would you say?
The first thing I want to say is one step at a time. Because I mean, all of us wants to go from zero to hero. Like, I want
Mm,
to starting from zero. I want to be a millionaire, and you make 7 figures overnight. That just doesn't work, and it's actually really bad for your nervous system, and you also won't believe it as well. I have been in a money shit show. I mean, during this last couple of years, like everything that I built just kind of came crumbling down. It was not that I even tried, and I'm really good with my money, but somehow everything just
Mm-hmm.
aligned where things just, so I
Mm-hmm.
can tell you that I know how I've done the picking myself back up
So,
work.
yeah.
Yeah. And again, it really starts at acceptance and forgiveness.
Wow.
And it's hard work because you always have these, oh, if I didn't do this, this wouldn't have happened. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you always blame, you always find something to feel guilty and shameful about. So you don't talk about it and you don't want to look at it. So the first thing is accepting where you are and forgiving yourself for what has happened,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is actually you mishandling your money or whether it's just actually the universe bringing in a lesson for you to go, hey, you haven't looked at this. We're bringing this
Yeah.
right into your face so that you can actually work on it. Just forgive yourself. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Like, you have the chance in every moment to choose again, and you can choose again to be good with money. When people say that they're bad with money, they're not good with numbers, that's just another story that they're telling themselves. So it's then
Mm-hmm.
starting to work on those stories and
Right.
starting to build yourself and your confidence back up.
Yeah. So work on your stories one step at a time. And then what I think you're kind of leading onto that for me was so important was to understand that everything is like a stepping stone, right? But to get to that vibration, it's getting off neutrality, like sorry, getting off negativity and into neutrality. So just because something bad happened to you doesn't mean that that past has to be brought into the present. So you have to, at least for me, I always kind of try to go back to neutrality than to work through the positive and go towards the positive of attracting more abundance. I don't know if that's true for you, but that's my, it's like, okay, I'm going down a negative loop. So how can I come back to neutrality? Then I can work into the positive.
Mm. I think the coming back to neutrality has a lot with your acceptance and forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're in that downward spiral, you're obviously in that negative loop. And then when you can
Right.
actually find that acceptance and forgiveness of where you are and what has happened, then you're coming back to neutral and then you can start picking yourself up. And even though I said baby steps, baby steps can then all of a sudden become these big leaps. It's just, sometimes it's taking maybe 3 baby steps and then all of a sudden you have this big leap. So don't be discouraged and go, oh, how many baby steps do I need to take? Sometimes it's those little baby steps then that propels you forward.
Right. Right. So I tell this all the time and I believe it. Like small step will lead to big changes. I think
Yes.
that's true. Um, so it's so interesting. Okay, so love it. So self-awareness patterns, talk to money, such a big thing. And then understand the energetics. And so what is exactly like with share trading? Like how can you use, for example, the energetics? And I know you work with intuition, all of
Yes.
that. And then you also use the logical brain, the masculine energy, but the feminine and the energetics. Like how do you do that?
Mm. So with share trading, I teach the strategy. So that's your masculine. This is how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
These are the graphs. This is the company profile, all those things, the logical, let's check off all the boxes
Mm-hmm.
type things. And then we need to work on your mindset and your energy because,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, if you go into share trading and placing a trade and going, this isn't going to work, it's not going to work. Right?
Right.
That's just how it is. So it's going in neutral. I always say to my clients, when you go into a trade, you take out the emotions. Okay, look at it logically and then tune in,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes everything might seem logical, but there's something nagging at you going, is not right, even though everything makes sense. So then I go, don't place the trade. Okay. Just don't go ahead with it. Because from my experience, if I don't listen, that's when it goes down. And I've had that experience where I went, oh, I just want to make a quick, few $100s because I can on the share market. I'm like, oh, everything looks really good. But there was something nagging at me. And for me, I remember that particular one trade was I didn't align with the company and what they do. But
Okay.
everything else made sense. Like the numbers, like, the
Yeah.
graphs all made sense. And what happened the
Mm-hmm.
day after I bought it, it just tanked. And I'm like, what? And I've had that experience multiple times, but that one was one that really made me go, oh, okay, wait a second, what's going on here? And so what I say is going neutral, and I mean really neutral, not even like, going into that blissful, oh, everything's really good state, because when you're in that blissful, everything is great state, you also can miss
Right.
signs. So it has to be very neutral.
It's kind of like be objective. Take your emotions out. That's what you're saying. It's like,
Yes.
I say the same with intuition. Like when I train people with like activating the third eye, is like your ego has to step aside. Like
Mm,
there is no you, there is no you with the emotional connection to this person. And that's, I think, what you're referring to is, yeah, stay in a neutral, objective place. That's when the intuition can come through. So the two goes together actually.
yeah.
So then you feel the nagging and then you trust that. It's the same for me
Yes.
with investment. Like if I'm investing in a coaching program, right? And it might be right, the offer might be great. And then there is a nagging thing, or I don't click with the coach,
Mm,
right? And I tell people all the time, if our energies don't click, it's not gonna work. It's so important for you to trust yourself.
yeah, exactly. And I think in terms of the coaching, I think we've learned that probably the hard way, in that we've invested in lots where
Yeah.
it didn't quite align. But at the same time, you still learn
Right.
from
Right.
it. But it's just that you could have gone to the right person faster.
Exactly. So obviously after I've invested, and actually I got even scammed one time. It's like crazy
Oh,
what's out there. But at the same time, I'm not mad and I forgave myself. You know what? It was a lesson learned to be like, well, I needed to listen to my intuition and what I saw. So I took it as a learning lesson. I forgave myself. And this is one thing that I wanted to share, which I think it's in the words you're using, is I learned that money is an energy. And I hear people talk about it all the time. So it's like, okay, I'll just remake the money back. I can
yeah,
recreate it, right? If money is an energy, that's when I started. Then there must be a way to manifest it, right? And I was at the beginning of my manifestation process. But what do you think about that? Is money an energy?
definitely. Well, everything is energy, so it makes sense
Right.
that money is energy. And also, when you think about it now, everything is tap. You tap on a machine,
Hmm.
so that's all frequency and waves. So that
That's
again,
what it is.
what it is, yeah, money is energy. Literally is now. Whereas before you might see a note, but now it is all in the waves, so it is definitely energy,
It's
even more so.
frequency. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then one thing that really helped me is going with the flow. And I always thought that, and I think you're learning that with share trading. Like it goes
Hmm.
up and down, right? So I've learned that money goes out and money goes in, because like I always had an art attack. I was like, if I look at my bank account, it goes in and out, and it's like I start having panic mode. And then I learned like, but if it's a frequency, and I kind of always tune it back to the body because that's the closest vibration I've worked with in term of my weight. So many women can relate to that. So I had to translate it to what I knew. Like the weight goes up and down. Your body
Yeah.
doesn't stay at the same weight all the time. So when I realized that about money, I was like, okay, but overall, it stays here. If you can hold that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you understand, but for me, it was so easy when I put it back into the body to understand
Mm.
money.
Yeah. I get what you mean. And then it's when you want to make more money than you have currently. So say, for example, you are making six figures,
Mm-hmm.
but everything's leaking, or you want to create more, is then being able to hold that frequency in your body as well for that
Mm,
higher amount. So that's something else that we need to do, so that otherwise you're just going to be staying at the same. So you'll always be making the same amount of money
okay.
regardless. What you want is to bring it up so that your being, your energy can
Can hold it.
hold it more.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so for people that are listening, it's like, okay, I want to make more money. And I've heard this concept before, but like, what would you say? How can you increase the container? Right? Because if you think about if someone is making, let's just even go back to like 5,000, right? It's very tangible for people. Or you can make 10,000, whatever you make right now. And then you start going like, I want to make 10,000 a month. I want to make 20,000, right? It's like the number that is so expansive that you can't even hold right now. But like, how can you get there in vibration if you've never felt it before? Like, what do you
Mm.
do to increase the capacity?
The first thing is being grateful for your money, the
Mm,
gratitude. When you have gratitude for your money, it
right.
it's it expands, right? Because you're in that higher vibration. So it's being grateful for what you have, but then also being grateful for what is to come. So then that actually really helps to expand your container and start making higher amounts normal. So if you
Mm,
think spending like $10 is a lot, then that will always be a lot of money. $10 is a lot of money. So it's being comfortable with larger sums of money and making it normal and not making it like this unattainable,
right.
far out there amount. So it's normalizing that within you. And yes, you're like, well, I can't see it yet. That's
Right.
okay. But talk about it like it's normal, like not
Yeah.
some magical number that is not attainable. Yeah,
I
it's
love that.
bringing it in. Yeah, bring it into your normal language to normalize it. So then that will help to expand and hold a higher amount in your container.
Yeah. So would you say like, so for us as an entrepreneur, right, we're high achievers. So we're always looking to grow. We surround ourselves like with even higher energy. That's how I'm able to grow because it's like if I have someone next to me that makes, a higher amount, I'm in their energy. So I'm normalizing that amount. That's how I do it. Right. So that's my strategy of like
Yeah,
normalizing and making this much money because I watch them. I literally study how they walk, they talk, their vibration. Right. So I just get into the nerdy of
yeah,
let me watch all of it and
yeah,
soak it in. So for someone though who is might not be a high achiever and there's nothing wrong. They're just like, okay, I want to make more money, but I'm not ambitious. So would you say though, hey, encourage them to hang out with like a different circle or find that person that
yeah.
inspires them?
Yes, definitely. And for some people, their circle may be the same as them. So
Right.
they're like, well, where do I find it? This is when you start either physically going to look for your people. Like, there
Mm-hmm.
are meetup groups, there's Facebook
Right.
groups. So you can go find those people or just hang out with a book from someone that has done it before, right? That is successful. You don't want to listen to people that hasn't done it and they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Well, they've not even tried. So how can they tell you that it's not going to work? And then there's someone who's written a book or an audiobook or a webinar or, a
Mm-hmm.
talk on YouTube where they're like, I've done this before and, teaching you all these lessons. They're the people you want to hang out with. And even though you don't know them personally, you're watching them. So it's
In their
that
energy.
energetics, right? In that and in the energy, yes.
I love that. So these are some tangible practices that, if you're listening to this, you can attune to. So, for example, hang out with people that make more than you, but they have a higher energy. So they have a higher capacity of container. Read the book, watch that YouTube. You don't even, it can also be free, but it's inspiring. So it will help you grow. And then what I love to do is going and walking into really wealthy neighborhood to normalize that, to soak in, because I'm so sensitive, and you're too, but whoever is sensitive to energy, pretty much everyone who is listening to this podcast, like if you can just walk into that shopping mall, that neighborhood, you know, it's such an expansion. And I've felt it this summer. I went to a very wealthy neighborhood in New York City, and I was just like beaming. I was like, oh my God, this is just normal. I walked in there and I was like, this is my normal life. Right. And it was so, I don't know, for me, it was really powerful. So, like, very tangible practices that
Mm.
people can use right now. And gratitude, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And if you go into like one of those neighborhoods and you're feeling like, oh, I don't belong here, then it's asking yourself, okay, what's the
Right.
story that I'm telling myself? Because I'm also very sensitive and I love going to like this nice neighborhood near the river here that I
Right.
like to just walk around in. And I'm like, yeah, this feels really good. But yeah, if it doesn't feel good or there's something, then it's
Mm-hmm.
going, okay, what's happening here? So then again, then that would help you to unlock or unblock, whatever you want to call it, those money stories or beliefs that you've got and help you to expand. Every time you like get rid of one of those, beliefs around
Blocks.
money, that's yeah, it again, that also helps to expand your container. So there's lots of different ways every time you just get rid of the shit, really.
I love it. It's true. I mean, we're here to up level, to get rid of the limiting beliefs, the blocks, whether they're in energy form, ancestral, their stories you created, or they were created. So I love it. Anything else that you would like to add that you think it's important for people to know around money?
Hmm. Just know that you're always supported. I think that's one thing that we always forget. I did
Mm-hmm.
mention it before, but just remember that when you need money, you probably always find that there's always someone or something that happens, and the money that you need, magically appears.
Right.
So just remember that, you are always supported,
Mm-hmm.
and really to start from basics, start at foundation, build that security. That's what's really needed because, like Sarah said, the foundation, like, your body and your nervous system is so important. If you don't have that sense of security around money, then you're always going to be flighty or scared or worried or not care about money. So once you build that foundation and that security, that's when you can really start building up. But until you lay that solid foundation, you're always not going to have a great relationship with money.
Absolutely. It's, yeah, definitely the foundation. And it's so important. I mean, personal story, when I lost it all and I literally went broke. I mean, through the divorce, but there was nothing, honestly, to attune to at that moment. And always supported. Like, that was like my journey of trust, right? And it was so beautiful to see that even if I thought I didn't have anything, which it was almost true, I say, because then the money came. And I literally, though, I had to have a conversation with the universe. So I was grateful. And I was like, I'll do anything to get myself out of this. I'll accept it, I'll surrender it. I know where I want to go to. But then, like, the universe starts talking back to you, right? And starts to gift you, or you have, sometimes you work for the money. sometimes I received gifts and I was like, okay, we're just moving in the right direction. So it's so beautiful. Yeah, you're always supported. That's such a great reminder.
Yeah. And to take
And
action.
absolutely, always. You can't just sit there, right?
Yeah.
Needs to be the masculine, the feminine working together.
Yeah.
I love it. So, where can people find you, Kaki?
Yeah. So I hang out on Facebook and Instagram
Mm-hmm.
mostly. So my handle is Kaki Lee 888. So KAKILEE 888 abundance. And
Mm-hmm.
or you can find me on my website, which is kakilee.com.
Oh, yay. So absolutely go and check Kaki and what she does. I mean, you're amazing. The transformation I've seen with you, it's been so beautiful to witness. We started, similar, but it's not obviously the same. But I loved witnessing your
Yeah.
transformation as a woman, and spirituality too came in very
Yeah.
strongly for you. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.